Is 2023 the year that you finally want to buy your first home, or maybe you want to buy a larger home? In this video, I'm going to share with you all the essential steps that you need to know when it comes to home buying in today's market. My name is Heidi Knowlton, and I'm a local real estate agent here in Northern Utah, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the home buying process. When a home buyer comes to me and says, I'm ready to buy a house, what do I need to do next? I have a buyer consultation with them. I'm pretty much going to go through that whole process with you right now in this video. So the first thing I say is, let's get together, let's meet up for lunch, or maybe we can have a Zoom call, and I'm going to show you what you can expect, all the terms that you're going to hear, and what they all mean. So the very first step when it comes to buying a house is to get your finances in order and check your credit. You need to have your money in order, money saved for down payment, money saved for different parts of the transaction. You also need to know about what your credit score is or how your credit looks. And you also need to have a solid job, at least in the same industry, for the last 2 years. Those are questions that the lender is going to ask you. Once you feel confident in that area, I will give you a few of my lender contacts, and I will give you 3 to 4 phone numbers, and you're going to call these lenders. You can call one or you can call all 4. It's totally up to you. And you're going to talk with them and see which one you feel comfortable with. It's really good to compare lenders. Don't just go with one. It's good to compare at least 2 or 3 to see who has better rates, who has better fees, because not all lenders are the same. Chat with them, build a rapport, see who you like and see who you want to work with. A couple things they're going to ask for. They will need to look at your income. They'll need to look at your credit. They'll also need to look at your job history, and they'll need to know about how much debt you have. They'll also want to look at W-2s and bank statements. So there are some lenders that you can call and you can say, here's kind of what I look like, here's my finances, here's my debt, and talk and have that conversation with them before they pull credit. There are some lenders that are just going to want to pull credit right away. So in my opinion, it's good to talk with one that can kind of give you a picture of how you look on paper before pulling credit. Ultimately, before you start looking at houses, you're going to want to have your credit pulled so that you can know exactly where you stand as far as your credit. But it also lets you know what kind of loan you can get. And the higher your credit score is, the lower your interest payment is. So it's hard for a lender to give you a quote on your monthly payment if they don't know your credit score and they haven't checked out your finances. So that is an important step. I know a lot of people are hesitant to have their credit pulled, but it's really an important part of the process to have your credit looked at. If you don't know how your credit looks, or maybe your credit needs some work, it's also good to talk to a lender right away so that they can look at your credit and they can give you a picture of, okay, you need to pay off this debt here and that's going to increase your score. Or don't pay off this debt because it's not really going to help you. They can give you some guidance where you can spend your money where it's going to be most useful to up your credit score. Most lenders also have a rapid rescore program, or they have a program that they can kind of simulate if you pay off this debt about what your credit score would go up to. So it's a really good idea to talk to a lender even if you're not quite ready yet, because they can give you some guidance and tell you exactly where you need to go and what you need to work on to get your credit in shape. Okay, so you've had your buyer consultation and you've had your lender look at your credit, get you pre-approved. Next step is to talk with your real estate agent again and get on the same page about what you are looking for in a house. Your real estate agent is going to need a couple details such as city, budget, bedrooms, lot size. Do you want a house? Do you want a condo? Do you want a townhome? Are you looking for senior living? These are all details that your real estate agent needs to know. And then as you start looking at homes, you might see your list might change a little bit, but your real estate agent will also be able to know more of what you're looking at before you even go look at a house. Another tip for when it comes to looking at houses is to drive by the house before you go inside the house. There's been many times I have pulled up to a neighborhood and pulled up to a house and the buyers are like, nope, this is not the neighborhood for us. We don't like how it looks, and we drive away and never go inside. So if you have the time, always drive by the house first. It will save time in the end and not waste anybody's time, including your own. Here are some tips when it comes to looking at houses and what to look for. Many times they help new buyers and they're walking through the house and they're like, I don't know what to look for. I'm just looking at a house. I don't know what to do here. So here are a few tips for that. Okay, so first off, when you drive up to a property, you want to check out the neighborhood. See if you like the neighbors. Are their houses taken care of? Do you feel like you fit in with the neighborhood? That's really important. Also, if you have kids, check out the schools. Are the schools close by? How are the schools rated? Stuff like that will help you make a decision. When you're actually walking through the house, here are a couple things that you can look for. First off, you want to see how the home is being cared for. Does the owner take pride of ownership? How do the walls look? How do the baseboards look? I always look at the front door, and the front door can usually tell you how the inside of the house looks, as funny as that sounds. If someone's got their front door power washed, the door's clean, there's not stuff all over the ground and dead plants, you kind of know the inside probably isn't taken care of very well. Same if the opposite, if the door is freshly painted, the door is power washed, you've got pretty flowers outside, that person usually has pride of ownership and it's going to show when you walk through the house. A lot of times when buyers go through houses, they can say to me, like, this house just feels dirty and it just doesn't feel right, or this house feels super clean, they take care of it, you can tell they've done a deep cleaning, the baseboards are clean, bathrooms are clean, around the tub is clean. All these little details make a difference when a buyer is going through your house when they're trying to decide if they like your house or not. Another thing that I look for on every house I go through is water stains. I look up at the ceiling, I look under the kitchen sinks. Are there water stains in this house? Has there been a roof leak, or has there been a flood potentially? If you see any water stains, it doesn't mean that this house is a no and you need to mark it off your list. It just means that you need to get some more details from the homeowner as to what happened to the leak. Was it properly remedied? Was the problem fixed? Was there any mold issues? There's some questions that come along with that if you see water stains, but it does not rule out the house. It can still be a great house and they just happen to have water damage. Most houses at some point have had water damage. You just want to make sure that it was taken care of properly. Another thing that's really important to pay attention to is how much work is needed on this house. Does it need new carpet? Does it need new painting? Are there holes in the walls? Are there dents in the doors? Things like this can really add up, but they're also easy projects to do from home. So if you like the rest of the house and it just needs some work, then go for it. Go for that house, and just know that you have to put in some elbow grease and put in some time. And a lot of people love doing that, but just make sure that you're realistic before you buy the house of what exactly needs to be done and how much time and how much money you need to put into the house. Also check for large items that might need to be replaced, such as HVAC, the furnace, how old is the water heater, how old is the roof. Those all add up and are very expensive. And if you don't have a budget for that, you might need to move on and find another house that's more ready to go. And those are questions that you can ask the seller during the due diligence period, which I'll get to in a little bit. You don't necessarily have to have all these, you don't necessarily need to have all the answers to all these questions up front, since you will have a due diligence period to do some more investigating on the house. Also, look at the furniture you have and start placing your furniture. A lot of buyers do this once they really like a house and they can see themselves living in it. They start placing their furniture. Will your king bed fit in the bedroom? Will your big sofa fit in the living room? And if it doesn't, but you love the house, maybe you just get new furniture, or maybe it's not the house for you. But try picturing yourself living there and placing your furniture and see how that feels to you. Also check for storage. How much storage do you need? Do you need a 3-car garage or 4-car garage because you have a lot of stuff to store? Do you need to have high ceilings in the garage so you can put up those racks? Do you have a lot of bedding and sheets and pantry area? Check all those areas to see how much storage you need, to see if it's sufficient for you and your family. Another thing I like to do when we're looking at houses is I'll ask you to rate the house on a scale of 1 to 10 so I can get an idea of how you like that house. And it helps us both. It helps you as well to be more aware of how you're feeling about the house, and it helps me know what kind of style and exactly what you're looking for in a house. And then I'll also ask you to compare it to the previous houses we've seen that day. And then you can kind of say, yeah, this one's a little bit better, or I like that one more. And we can start marking houses off your list so we can narrow it down to which houses you really like. Okay, so once you have narrowed it down to the house that you like, the next step is to write the offer. So when you write the offer, your agent is going to have a lot of questions to ask you. So I'll be asking you, how much earnest money do you want to put down? How much of a deposit? So what kind of loan are you doing? And what's your purchase price? How much time do you want for your due diligence and for loan and appraisal? And when do you want to close on the house? And then when do you want to move in on the house? And then if you're in a multiple offer situation, you want to also strategize and say, okay, how can we make my offer stronger? What are some things we can do to be more aggressive so that our offer will stand out compared to some other offers? Okay, so let's go over the earnest money really quickly, because this is where a lot of people aren't sure what this money is for, and I explain it almost every time. So your earnest money is just an initial deposit to show the seller that you're serious about buying their house. So you have your pre-approval, you have your offer, and then you want to put some money behind your offer. So usually it's 1 to 3%, depends on how many buyers you're up against, depends on how strong you want your offer to be, but the higher earnest money, the better. So if you're doing a $500,000 house, the minimum I would say your earnest money should be is $5,000. And that money does go towards your down payment. It goes towards your bottom line when you go to close, so you don't lose that money. But there are dates where you could lose that money. There's dates along the contract. So let's say you have 10 days of due diligence period. You have those 10 days to do all the research you want to do on the house. And if you decide, I don't like the neighbor, I don't like the color of the house, I don't like how the home inspection went, then you can cancel and get your money back within those 10 days. Or whatever time frame you write on the offer. It's on the last page of the contract is where it says your due diligence date. If let's say your due diligence is 10 days, and if on day 12 you're like, yeah, I just don't want to buy the house anymore for whatever reason, you can cancel, but you're not going to get your earnest money back. So those dates are really important to pay attention to. The next deadline that you have is your loan and appraisal, 14 to 21 days or so after the acceptance day. So by this time, you want to make sure your loan is in order and your loan is approved. You've had all your conditions cleared with the underwriter. And at that point, your money becomes non-refundable once you've passed your loan and appraisal deadline. So as the day creeps up, as that day approaches, you and your agent need to be in contact with your lender, which hopefully you have been this whole time, so you know what's going on. But you want to be in contact with your lender, and they will tell you, yes, everything's looking good, or no, we're not quite sure. You can ask for an extension with the seller. If you've asked for 15 or 16 days loan and appraisal, and maybe the appraisal's not back yet, or maybe there's a condition that hasn't been cleared, you might want to go to the seller and say, hey, can we have a couple more days because we're not quite done getting this loan approved? And the seller can say yes, or they can say no. So if they say no, you might want to cancel and get your money back, or if you're feeling pretty confident, you can move forward. Okay, so let's talk about the home inspection. Once you get under contract, first thing you do is you get your money, your earnest money, over to the title company. You can drop off a check, or you can wire the money, or you can give the agent your check. After that, you want to schedule your home inspection pretty quickly. So your home inspection is just a third-party person that you hire, you pay him. It doesn't go to your closing costs. You pay him directly, and he goes through the house, and he tells you everything that he can see that's wrong with the house. There's no way a home inspector will ever be able to pick out every single thing. There's stuff behind the walls that we can't see. They do have like infrared machines where they can see water, or they can see heat behind walls. I actually had a house one time. It was a pretty old house, and during the home inspection, he found heat behind electrical. And so we had to call the fire department out, and they had to come out immediately because the house was at risk for a fire. So it's really good to have a home inspector that does these more thorough inspections. If you need a referral, just comment below and I'll send you his information. But home inspections are very important. They can save you a lot of money. They can cost between like $300 to $600, just depends on the size of the house. And if he can find plumbing leaks, he can find electrical issues, downspout issues in the concrete, issues in the basement, issue with windows. I mean, everything you can think of, he looks at. And it's a very thorough report. You get a copy of it with pictures so you can see exactly anything that's wrong with the house. And pretty much every house you go through will have something wrong with the house. Even brand new houses always have a home inspection done because they are not perfect. Contractors put the houses up fast. They miss things. Unfortunately, mistakes are made. And it's important to have those things caught before you move into the house. Always do a home inspection. Once you have the home inspection done, you can go to the seller and say, hey seller, we found a leak under the kitchen sink. Will you fix that? Or whatever else you happen to find. If there's some loose shingles or the roof looks kind of sketchy, you might want to have another inspection for the roof to find out how much life is actually left on this roof and how much money does it need. And then any repairs, you can go to the seller and ask the seller to do repairs. And the seller can say yes, or they can say no, or they can say we'll do some of them. Or the seller can say, here's some money, we're just going to give you a credit at closing. And it's not cash at closing, it goes towards your bottom line. So you'll get a credit at closing, and you can use that money however you want to use it. Once you've negotiated the repairs, the next step is to go on to the appraisal. The appraisal is a third party that you don't get to pick. No one chooses the appraiser. Basically, they're pulling a name out of a hat. And they changed that law a few years ago because we used to be able to choose the appraiser, but we can't do that anymore. So they have an appraiser go out, and the appraiser is just a third-party subjective opinion of the house. So if you have 5 appraisers look at the house, you'll probably get 5 different values of the house. They should all be pretty close though to the same number. It's a subjective report basically. So they value the house based on all the homes around it, and they look at the age of the house, they look at the square footage, they look if it's a tri-level, they look if it's a rambler or a 2-story, they look at upgrades. So they get all this data and determine the value of the house. And a lot of times you hear people say, well, the house is sold across the street for $800,000. Why was mine at $700,000? Well, there's going to be differences. There's going to be upgrade differences. There's going to be garage size differences. There's going to be square footage differences. Just because that home sold for $800,000 doesn't mean your house is going to sell for $800,000. During this time, while you're doing your home inspection and you're doing the appraisal, the lender is also reaching out to you for a lot of documents. So once you get under contract, you have even more communication with the lender. They start doing a deeper dive on your credit, deeper dive on your income, on your job, on your pay stubs, on your bank statements, and they're going to submit all your information. They're going to gather all your information, and they're going to send it off to the underwriter. And the underwriter goes through everything with a fine-tooth comb and is looking for any holes, anything that doesn't make sense, anything that needs some clarification. And so that underwriter is going to say, okay, I looked at your application, I looked at all these things, but these couple things I need some more clarification on, or I need an explanation, or just give me some more details. So those are usually called conditions. So the underwriter goes through your file and says, there's these conditions, we need to get some more information, and then you submit all of the information that they need, and then you clear your conditions, and that's when you get final approval. So this whole process takes a couple weeks. It doesn't happen overnight, but once you get everything submitted, it moves along much faster. Towards the end of the loan process is when you get clear to close, and that's the term we use, is clear to close. That means that your file is 100% done, everything's ready to go, you can close on your house. So that's a great day to celebrate. So circling back to the appraisal, I didn't talk about the fees for that. So each lender has different fees that they charge for the appraisal, and those are paid either through your closing costs and you pay them at closing, or you pay them up front. Most of the time you're paying for your appraisal up front, and it can be between $500 and $700. And you just pay that up front to the lender, and that's money that you don't get back if you were to cancel on the house. Let's talk about money real quick that you need up front. So you need your earnest money up front, you need money for the home inspection up front, and you need money for the appraisal up front. Your down payment for the house, so if you're putting down 3.5% if you're FHA, or if you're doing 5%, 10%, whatever your down payment is, that money is due at closing time. So if you went under contract June 1st, you're closing June 30th, the remainder of your money for your down payment is going to be due like June 29th or June 30th, just depending on how the lender will fund your loan. And that's when you need to have the rest of your money available to wire over to the title company. And a side note about wiring money, whenever you go to wire money to the title company, never go off of an email. You need to call them and say, hey, I got these wire instructions via email. I need to confirm the account number and the routing number. There is so much wire fraud going on. I've heard horror stories about buyers that have lost thousands of dollars because they got an email and they just wired money without calling to confirm. So please always call to confirm wire money. So your loan's approved, everything's done. Everything has been worked out. You've got repairs negotiated, you've got your loan worked out, the house appraised. Now you're ready for closing. So closing looks like this. You go to the title company and you're going to sign all your loan docs, and you're going to sign like 100 pieces of paper, and your arms are going to get tired, and you're going to wish you had a stamp to sign your name. So you sign all the papers, they go through all the numbers, they go through your loan, they go through the note, the deed, everything you're signing at the title company. And then once you've signed everything, the title company will take a copy of your ID. They'll give you wire instructions and say, this is what you need to wire. This is the exact amount. You go to the bank, you wire the money. You don't own the house yet. Some people think that when you go to sign loan docs, you get keys. Here in Utah, you don't do that. I know there are other states that you do that, but not here in Utah. So once you sign the loan docs, they send everything off to the lender. The lender reviews them. They make sure nothing's been missed. And if that all looks good, then the lender will wire the money to the title company. And then once title company has your money, then they can disperse it, and they can actually take all the paperwork and get you recorded on your new house. And then once you've recorded, that's usually when you get keys, unless you have negotiated like a rent back to where the seller is going to stay in the house for maybe a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months, whatever that is. Then you would get keys at that time of possession, which should be in your offer. You should know ahead of time when you get keys to your house. So the whole time from signing loan docs to the lender funding to recording on title, it can happen all in one day if you sign early in the morning, or it can happen over 2 days. Like if you did this on a Thursday, you sign loan docs at 2 o'clock, you're not going to fund and record until Friday. And it usually happens later in the afternoon, around 3 to 5 p.m. Every now and again, we'll get one that's at like 10 a.m., but that doesn't usually happen. And so then you've recorded, and once you've recorded, now you officially own the house, and you are a homeowner now. So in the weeks leading up to moving in on your new house and closing on your home, there is a checklist of things that you want to have done so that you're prepared for your move-in. If you want that checklist, just comment below and I'll email it over to you. It's just a moving checklist basically, so you don't forget anything. When it comes to moving, it's a really stressful time. Things can slip through the cracks. So if you want that checklist, just comment below, leave me your email address, and I'll send it over to you. If you have any questions about the home buying process here in Utah, just comment below. I'm happy to help. Hopefully I've covered everything from A to Z when it comes to home buying, and you have a clear picture of how it will look, and you feel more confident moving forward. If you're looking for homes in a certain area, just comment below, let me know where you're looking, and I can send you a link so you can start searching for homes right away and see exactly what's on the market. But thanks for watching, and I will see you on my next video.